Welcome to Quick About It. I am your host, Jackson, with
Walker, your other host. This is going to be a weekly podcast where we talk about games, movies, and TV and all the big announcements and discuss about it. However, being this first episode and it's towards the end of June, it's going to be pretty game heavy, as you know, because we have had a lot of big announcements. It's June. It's the E3 season, though I really don't think E3... I don't think it's going to happen anymore. I mean...
Probably not.
I mean, they already confirmed 24 and 25 is done.
Really?
They did, yeah. So 24 and 25, they've confirmed is not happening. I think there were reports. I don't know if it's confirmed. But, I mean, I just don't see it ever coming back.
This year, they even changed it with, they had an entire developer segment instead of open to the public the entire time, which was new to it all, which made also the tickets really confusing to get.
I mean, it was super. I mean, there was a ton of uncertainty without E3, and, and hopefully, if it's more consistent that E3 isn't happening, we get a more... I like the Summer Game Fest. I think it's not as good, but I do enjoy having the people in charge of the Game Awards. Also, I don't know how y'all feel about industry stuff, but I enjoy maybe having the Game Awards people, Jeff Keighley, and own the summer announcements things and have some consistency between that. Because having kind of all the big events split up among people can be good, but I think there's some pros to having some consistency.
Yeah, definitely. I am glad, though. I think last year they didn't have it in person, but this year they actually did because,
yeah, a lot of people got to be hands-on with the demos and stuff, and so that was really great. But yeah, a lot of great announcements.
I think it's just going to replace E3 all around.
E3's not going to come back. Summer Game Fest is going to be the biggest one. I mean, obviously, there've already been there were a ton of other shows, and PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo kind of all did their own thing. Xbox.
Even Ubisoft
did their own thing. So, Capcom did their own thing, but it was, it's become E3's season has become more of an idea than an event, which I find really fascinating.
Yeah. I guess it's probably because it's been around in the industry for such a long time. When did it come out?
It was there for. It was a very big deal when it went away because of how much of a thing it's been there and how much it was Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. They were there. They were there every time. So the fact that they all three announced they weren't going that year, it ended it.
And Sony dropped out back in 2019.
Yeah, when they all dropped out, that was seen as the end of it.
Xbox and Nintendo were still with it for a little bit. And then this year we obviously saw them leave as well. So
but a lot of big announcements. First big announcement we wanted to talk about was the Kojima announcement from... How long ago was that?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah. Kojima was on the Apple event, which... That's interesting in the fact itself. It's... Not often you see someone from the game space go on to an Apple event because Apple is very weird about the gaming space. They're starting to become more of a, trying to get PC gamers over to Apple, even though Mac is not ready for gaming yet.
But, that's what they're trying to do, and that's why I think they had Kojima on there, was to talk about, to have a guy like Kojima go up and say, I believe in the Apple hardware and I'm going to bring my games, and a guy like Kojima to say that. That helps, when you're trying to start up and try to compete with the gaming laptop industry. In the PC industry, I just think Mac is so far behind. Is that possible for them? I don't know.
It really might not be. Mac I've always saw as a different platform for a different purpose. I see a lot of video editors use Mac. I personally use Mac for my editing. I see a lot of musicians use Mac. All of Hollywood almost uses Mac. But when you look at PC market, that's more for architecture, mainly gaming, honestly. There's so many games and so many people who use PC to game. They don't use consoles anymore. So.
Yeah, but you also, to that point, a little sidebar. You have seen that console, multi-platform releases are becoming tougher, and Xbox, and there were a lot of PC releases that haven't lived up recently in Europe. And is that a sign of they don't want to deal, like a lot of console developers don't want to deal with PC, and I'm worried we're about to see kind of like there are PC games and there are console games, and there's not any overlap.
Yeah.
With the increase in exclusives.
I mean, that's how it was way back.
I mean, that's how it was.
But
with
then
that,
they
but-
switched it, and then it was like PC and console. And then after each new generation of consoles, there would always be a mass amount of games. Except that's excluding this generation. There hasn't been a lot of games. That's also something to talk about.
Well, I mean, it's a younger.
It's 3 years, and we still don't have a true next gen game.
I mean, next gen is a very complicated term. I feel like, and I do.
Now it is.
I mean, it's the games look nicer on consoles now. I mean, it's better
Yeah.
graphics, but it is that thing of like, are they trying to develop games that can only be built for these consoles? That's the idea behind them, and But I think one of we'll talk about this later. I think Starfield. I mean, the sheer scale of it doesn't sound like it could. I mean, is it coming to one? I can't remember.
No.
They haven't. Yeah, I mean,
No.
it's coming to like. I don't think like that was a thing they wanted to build because it was in their minds it could only exist on this gen.
And it's not going to PlayStation.
And it's not going to PlayStation. I mean, it's an Xbox exclusive, which
That's
there's actually stuff in the
insane.
news. They're actually getting in some trouble for that with the FTC, but we'll see how that plays
Did
out.
it? Yeah, their deal with Activision didn't
That's being
happen,
halted.
Right? It's being halted.
It's being halted, and the FTC is using the Starfield situation as kind of evidence for the problems with the buyouts and the kind of the forming of these massive game studios.
It's kind of crazy because Sony always had the best exclusives. So they saw
Sony has better exclusives. That's like, I know you're an Xbox guy.
I mean,
A little bit, but
both.
it's Sony has. It's just they've always won. They're always going to beat Xbox. I mean, Xbox. Phil Spencer came out and said he lost,
Yeah.
and like, good for him for not being stubborn about it. I guess no one was asking.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like Phil Spencer came out and said Xbox lost.
It's kind of interesting though, because if you look back at like the 360 era, Xbox had the upper hand.
I mean, 360 was that kind of
was-
big.
The only thing that held it back was the Red Ring of Death. If that hadn't happened, I feel like Xbox would be in the place that PlayStation is right now, possibly.
I mean, who knows? But I mean, the fact that they like Series X lost to the Switch, that's embarrassing. I mean, that's a little. I mean, they're third place, which
and
third place is still pretty good.
yeah,
But I mean,
that's out of 3.
that's out of 3 big ones. But I really think this is a long time ago. But I really think what hurt the Series X release, and we'll get back. We got way off topic here. We're supposed to be talking about June of this month. But what really I think hurt the Series X release was not having a Halo game to release along with it.
Yeah.
And I really think, it was that weird release of Halo Infinite and the delayed. I mean, those two are so hand in hand. I mean, it's like Xbox and Halo. It's like, how can you can't separate the two. They're so integral to each other's success in my mind that not releasing them together feels like a miss. And that kind of hurts your marketing for the console.
Yeah, because I was one of the early adopters of the Series X, and when I first got it, I was so excited to play all the next-gen games, right? But then I went on the store, and it was basically all the same as the Xbox One. So
PS4 had that problem.
Yeah.
It didn't have a ton of exclusives.
Yeah.
And I think, PS5 has some really great. I recently got a PS5. Have never owned a PlayStation. I am grinding through as many PlayStation games I haven't played before. I'm like trying to play catch up here. But Nintendo and PlayStation are. PlayStation's a close second, but Nintendo I think does win for exclusives. You can't really beat Nintendo.
The amount they pump out is, I feel like, a lot more than PlayStation does. Yeah, Nintendo, you have all, like, even they collaborate with, like, Ubisoft, of all people, with the Mario and Rabbids. Like,
they do a lot, and it's very consistent, which is why they've been so successful. Anyway, big sidebar, back to June. A lot of big announcements this past month. What was your favorite announcement from this month?
ooh, Starfield was pretty good. The Spider-Man 2 trailer
Yes,
was really good.
it looks like it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
I just realized they didn't I was thinking about the PlayStation event. They didn't show any Wolverine.
They didn't. I'm sure it's still.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure it's fine. I mean, it's early on. I mean, that was just we saw cinematic.
Yeah.
Was it only 2 years ago? Last year.
I think it was last year.
Last year. So they're gonna take their time. I'm interested to see how a Wolverine game's gonna play out with a character that heals constantly.
Yeah.
But I am excited for the Wolverine game. But yeah, Spider-Man 2 looks great. You already know what I was excited about. This announcement. You'll find out probably if you keep watching this.
For audio listeners, he's wearing an Alan Wake shirt.
Yeah, if you can't, I'm wearing an Alan Wake shirt. But I mean, I love that game, and to see it get a sequel, I wasn't. To be fair, I did not on 360. I did not play it when it released in 2010. I did play it though. I did play the remaster a few years back. Loved it. Already one of my favorite games of all time. So I didn't wait 13 years for the sequel, which a lot of fans have been. But I actually got lucky with I had just beaten the game, and then a few months later, Remedy announced it. But no, I'm very excited for Alan Wake.
See, I thought the game was fine. It was fun. It wasn't bad. He keeps telling me to play the DLCs, and that's what makes it one of the best games ever.
I mean, the DLC chapters to Alan Wake 1 were, to me, it went from, good to really, really good. And it was just 2 extra chapters, but it was enough. It was so interesting and such a weird kind of shift, transition. But I'm really excited to see what Remedy is doing with Alan Wake 2. I mean, it's just Remedy... I've always said this too. I think they're one of the most creative studios working. I think they do such cool stuff, and you saw that with Control.
Are they AAA at this point?
I mean, they're a weird. I've read an article. They're a really weird company because they're one of the biggest studios to not be owned by one of the big 3, which is so
which,
they're in an interesting situation.
They could be bought out soon.
I mean, they're not big enough. They have to get other people to publish their games to be really big. I mean, 505 publishes Control.
Yeah.
Epic Games publishes the Alan Wake series for them, but which I find interesting that they don't use the same publisher, especially considering they want to do the connected universe.
I hope there's not any of that advertising like in the first one.
Well, they got rid of that.
They did get it in the remaster.
Hopefully they won't have to do that. But yes, the infamous advertising.
For those who don't know, there was Verizon billboards, and you used Duracell batteries for your flash. Energizer
batteries. They got. I didn't play through that version, but yes, they did do that. I wonder to add a little bit of realism while also making some extra money on it. I don't know. But no, Alan Wake 2, so excited for this October. But yes, to your point, Starfield does look
really looks crazy.
It looks crazy.
How many planets did they say you can explore?
Oh, it's over 1,000. It's ridiculous. And here's my thing about Starfield right now. It could be good. It could be really good. It could also be really bad. And it's just it's the ambition that I love, and they've done some great things. I mean, it's Bethesda. They've done some amazing things, and the team, who have made their open world games have done amazing
They're
things.
very glitchy though. But
it could be very glitchy.
They said it's their least glitchiest game, which honestly shocks me because of how big it is.
I know. You would think that'd probably end up being their glitchiest game, considering all the stuff there is. I mean, it's insane. I mean, the game is insane to me, and it looks amazing. But I am worried it's going to release, and it's going to be just this hodgepodge.
Like another
Cyberpunk. Be like a Cyberpunk where we got to wait, or a No Man's Sky where we got to wait I don't know, maybe half a year.
How long have they been working
playable.
on it? Do we know how long they've been working on it?
I mean, it's been a long time, probably. I mean, the crazy thing, it's their first IP in 25 years, almost a quarter of a century.
So, I mean, you got to assume they've been working on it for at least 12 years or so.
It's
but again,
insane.
Cyberpunk was worked on for 10 years before the release.
But yeah.
And then we all know how that went. But they are releasing DLC.
They are releasing DLC, which is,
It might be. I don't think it'll bring it back, though.
I don't know. I mean, that was I remember having all my friends so hype, oh yeah, 1 month. 1 month, 2 months. Or 1 month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It got pushed back a week for some reason. It was a disappointing game, especially considering the hype of people were saying this is what games have been leading up to. Cyberpunk is the next big thing. It's gonna change the conversation, and it was Cyberpunk. It was Cyberpunk. But
as itself, the game is fine. I've never actually played it. I've seen a lot of reviews.
I mean,
it seems fine. Even if it released with no glitches, I don't think it would have
I
been
don't
game
see.
changer.
I didn't see like the what's the and I mean maybe it's good.
Maybe
And, like
it's-
like maybe it's like one of those things where you got to play it. I mean that's what I say about Alan Wake. Like oh you just got to play it, then you get the big deal behind it. But no, but those were really great. Yeah, there were some really great announcements. The one surprise announcement that really caught me off guard, but I like saw it and was like, ooh, that actually looks really good. Was the Sonic Mania Teams 3D platformer coming out that they showed in the Direct
Is that the one
with the yo-yo?
with the yo-yo? Oh, I didn't realize that was Sonic Mania.
That was yeah. They said it's Sonic.
That
Mania's
does look
team.
good.
It
That
does look good.
It looks promising.
It looks promising, and it looks like like platformers. They've always
They've been oversaturated by now.
I mean, there's so many of them, especially they've released so many, and they can either be
There-
really good or really bad.
There's like few like Celeste completely changed. Like they just took two abilities and just kept adding on top of it throughout the entire game, making it like one of the best.
The thing about
platformers.
the best platformers have it's simple controls. You can't do all this stuff. Like it's a limited move set that you have to utilize in a ton of ways. And I think that's the best, and you can do a thing where it's a ton of different abilities, but I feel like that's where it falls short. Like a Balan Wonderworld where they had like 100 different power-ups and none of them were good. And it's platformers are hard, and it's hard creating like a mascot character that people like. But it can be done, and we've already seen a fantastic platformer this year in Pizza Tower. I mean
I still haven't played it.
it was insane. I mean, I'm sure y'all have heard and or played it or seen it. I mean, it's an amazing game, and they took their time with it, and I mean it's one of the best like controlling games I've ever played. But yeah, it looks really promising, the mechanics and the idea that
It's really interesting.
the idea of the double jump and the more acrobatic move set. I feel like I haven't seen a ton in platformers.
I
which
really
kind of
enjoy games with just really unique kind of abilities. Like there's this one game that I played called Hue. You should definitely go check it out if you haven't. Basically, you have this color wheel and you change the background of the scene to solve puzzles. Like certain blocks are like blue, and if you change the background to blue, then you can walk through the block because you can't see it anymore. It's really fascinating.
That is actually cool. That reminds me, I don't think it's out yet, but I did think we did see some trailers during the June announcements. What's the name? I'm blanking on the name, but it's that game where you have to like move the stuff and it's all based on it's kind of like Superliminal but with pictures.
Oh, wait, with pictures.
With like paintings and you like walk through them.
Okay, sorry. I thought because Valve a long time ago had this idea for Portal 2 that was going to use pictures as kind of superliminal-esque. I mean, obviously Superliminal wasn't out yet. Basically, you'd use pictures to solve perspective puzzles. I don't entirely remember what it looked like, but it looked really cool from what I do remember.
I can't find it right now. It'll come. It may come to me by the end of this episode, but I don't know. But But anyway, speaking of the Sonic Mania platform, that's a good segue. The Nintendo Direct, which honestly, I'm gonna be honest, came as a total shock to me that it was coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, I was ready to record this and talk about how we weren't going to see a Nintendo Direct this summer, because it was, to me, it was the fact that Everybody 1-2 Switch was announced before the Direct came out, and there was a Pikmin 4 trailer they showed before the Direct came out. And releasing those separately felt like, okay, they don't have enough for a Direct. They're just going to release some trailers and some announcements and then just move along.
So if you don't know, there was this game called 1-2 Switch when the Switch came out. Now they're making a sequel to it, which is probably uncommon because they just did like a article post for it. Didn't even show a trailer. Well, now there's a trailer out.
There is
it came out like yesterday.
It came out after the Direct. This is what's scary about
scary.
Everybody 1-2 Switch. They seem embarrassed by it. Which to see Nintendo embarrassed by a game and releasing it is like this is the studio that scrapped all their work on Metroid Prime 4 because they didn't like what they were doing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not as bad.
Maybe.
But like it's weird that like this is just a spin-off game that they don't seem proud of, but they're still going to release it for $30.
That's
And this is
probably
the
why.
yeah.
If it was something they were proud of, they probably would have released it for 60, maybe even 70 now with today's standards.
Or at least, you know, or at least put it in the direct, or at least showboat it if you thought it was a good game.
Yeah, which
But you know,
I
it's
highly
not.
doubt anyone's going to be buying this.
I don't know.
Like 1-2 Switch came out to show what the Switch could do.
Yeah,
it was fine. It was fun. Good, like 30 minutes of fun with some friends. You
It
know?
was the Switch's Astro's Playroom if you had to pay $60 for
Yeah,
Astro's Playroom.
that's the problem. You
That was
also
the
had to
problem.
buy it.
It was not a pack-in game because that was a big. I mean, I'm sure you all know that was a big problem when the Switch came out. There were a ton of pack-ins. You had to buy the games separately.
Yeah. Which consoles are starting to do that more. Like Xbox didn't have it this generation.
But PlayStation
had
some
Astro's
bundles.
Astro's
Playroom, but then you know they've also done some like Ragnarok
That
bundles
is true.
later on, and they've done some good bundles.
I really enjoyed Astro's Playroom.
Yeah, it's a fun.
It's I get the point. It's to show what the DualSense can do, right?
Yes.
But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun platform.
It's a fun platform. I mean, it's not like amazing, groundbreaking. I do have a friend who thinks it's better than Odyssey. And
I actually
don't
100%
understand.
it.
Yeah, but I have a friend who thinks it's better than Odyssey, and I'm like, what are we talking about?
No,
here?
no.
Like it's
It's not
Mario
better than
Odyssey.
Odyssey.
Astro's
Odyssey.
Playroom. It was like you're comparing like I don't know, like a burger to a filet mignon.
Yeah.
Like they're both good, but I mean that's the better piece of meat.
Obviously.
But
Do you think? I was surprised not to see Mario Odyssey 2 this direct.
I mean,
I am excited
was
for
Wonder.
Mario Wonder.
Wonder,
That
I mean, I think-
looks really good.
I think people were expecting Odyssey, you know, another 3D platformer, maybe like an Odyssey 2. They're getting another 2D Mario game, which I think had it been another new
Yeah, if it was
entry,
another
people
new
would
entry,
have been
it would have been
furious.
so annoying. 'cause
People would have been so
that
mad, but
I don't know, call it a franchise, I guess.
Series.
It's been so oversaturated by now. Like,
Yeah.
we've had it since the DS, so like
Maybe.
2003.
DS, Wii, 2 for the second one. You have, I mean, there's been like
Then there's
4 or
there's
5.
the Wii, then there's the Wii U, then there's the Wii U Deluxe on the Switch.
Yeah.
Then there's the Switch edition. So it's like,
Well,
what,
the
like
Wii U Deluxe is the Switch version.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh.
There's a Wii U Deluxe. But no, it is, I mean, and what's someone pointed out, I mean, the Mario games in the 80s and 90s switched up the art style and the design of the game with each game. I mean, Mario 1 plays very different from Mario 2,
Two's
which plays very different from Mario Bros. 3, which plays very different from World.
Yeah.
New was just like, we're going to keep the same style and mechanics, and then we're just going to add some new world enemies and power-ups each game. And they're still good.
I think the biggest difference between one of those like titles in the series is probably from DS to Wii, just because of the multiplayer function.
And there was some.
I
yes.
think it's because they saw the success of the Wii one and they thought, oh, we should just keep doing this.
Yeah, we should
But
keep
then-
doing it.
I mean, they were all fine. I didn't get them all because it's kind of all the same. So I'm really excited for Wonder because of how different
Yes.
it looks.
However, I do want to defend the new games for a little because since Wonder's been coming out, I've been seeing a ton of people be like, "Yeah, I'm so excited. The new series sucked."
Oh,
and I'm like,
I think
but
it's
they
fine.
work. They're still Mario games, and those are and
were
they're
fun.
Mario games, and so they still work. They're still fun platformers. But I just think
Do I
it
think
was
all
getting
of them
old.
should be $60? No.
They shouldn't all be these like giant games. So I think Wonder, is very exciting. If you don't know Wonder, it's the new 2D Mario platformer. I mean, it looks amazing. I mean, it totally redesigns Mario, and it's different. It was a little like at first I was like a little unsure how I felt about it when I saw the trailer. I was like, okay, but by the end of the trailer I was like, okay,
Then they
you have me
end you
hooked.
with Mario turning into an elephant.
I mean, everyone's been freaking out about it. I'm sure you've seen all the art and stuff. I mean, but that's the kind of stuff, like, at first you're like, that's weird. But then again, the last game was about Mario possessing people.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's what
Mario's
makes
a
Mario
weird
good.
franchise.
It's a weird franchise, but
Like,
that's what makes it good.
I think the weirdest one is probably Sunshine.
Sunshine is, I mean, it's different. It's the most different.
It's very
I think.
different.
very
The
left
themes
field.
are very different. I mean, the platforming's still kind of similar to the 3D games.
But that's my point. They saw that 64 was like, okay, they did their classic. It was basically like a classic Mario game with, so they just say, okay, we got to do something totally different. We can't just do another 64.
Yeah.
Which it was what makes, and I'm not a huge Sunshine fan because I
Yeah.
think it's just
It's
with the flood, the platforming can be a little weird, especially in the floodless sections. Ugh, I hate the floodless sections.
It's a hard game.
It can be a frustrating game. I get why people like it. It wasn't my cup of tea, but no, I mean that looks great. The Mario Wonder looks great. I mean
RPG looks
the
good.
remake looks
It
fantastic.
looks beautiful. I've never actually seen anything on. I heard about RPG, but I've never actually seen anything on it. Nor have I played it, obviously. But I'm probably gonna pick this one up. It looks really fun.
I've played a little bit at the beginning I've played a few of the RPG games and the Paper Mario games, and that's what started it, and they're really good games. I was expecting, it was really surprised because you accidentally spoiled Remake.
Yeah.
For me. Well, I hadn't watched it yet, and you were like, Remake, and I was like, I'm not watching it. Like, no. But no, I went back. I was like, okay, here's the remake. I was expecting, since I thought what it was going to be was a partnership with Square Enix, and it was going to be a 2D.
It's not, is it?
I think
It's
it's just
completely
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
But I thought it was. We were about to see a 2D HD remake of it, which I was expecting. Which I was, that sounded good. But then all of a sudden, it was like these fantastic, very classic, Nintendo style, really their current graphics, and I was like blown away by the art style, and like they're still keeping Mario.
It's
kinda
like
tiny
a
and cute.
sprite, like
Little
as if he's like a
sprite, yeah.
3D sprite. It's
Like
crazy.
a 3D little cute little sprite. I mean, it looks amazing, and because the first game is amazing. The Geno for Smash stuff is making a resurgence because of it, but no, that looks amazing. The new Peach game looks interesting. That was another big
We saw,
announcement.
12 seconds.
We saw
of
12
it.
seconds of it. I'm sure we'll see more news as the year goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, the last
There was a Peach game
there
before.
was, yeah. I mean, this is the first super.
Now, it was called Super Princess Peach, I believe. I actually had it, but or my sister did technically. Then my dad took it to GameStop to sell it. So, and
you don't own
apparently
it?
the guy at GameStop told him that it was super rare, and he was like he didn't really care. So, I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to keep that. But you know,
I've heard it's pretty
fine.
good. People have complained it's a little, problematic. So I don't know a ton about it, but
Is it?
It's they felt like it was supposed to be Peach's solo act, and then they just kept her. There were just some problems they had with what they did with the character and all that, and the design of the game. So hopefully, maybe they're gonna correct those things they feel with the sequel. But I've heard some interesting theories about what it is. I mean, you give a gaming community
I thought it
12
was-
seconds, they're gonna pour all over that.
It was a
every
little
detail.
confusing to me, at least, because they did it right connected to RPG. So I thought it was like a part of
Oh,
RPG,
that's what I thought I was seeing was
Yeah.
like a DLC extra.
even
story
though Peach
thing.
looked completely different.
Even though she looked different, I was like, "Oh, is this?" And they were like, "Nope, a
separate
brand new
game.
Peach game."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, wow."
which I felt was kind of weird to do right at. I mean, I guess if you're like a Mario segment,
I think you have them on that high. You want to
Yeah.
progressing. Oh, and by the way,
at least I mean there was a few, but at least the direct wasn't filled with farming simulators.
yeah. What was the? I mean, if you're like, was there something in the direct you were hoping to see that didn't make it?
Oh, I've never played it, but I've heard that. What is it called? It's the ones with the Mii's. I think it was on the DS. Tomodachi Life.
Tomodachi Life.
Yeah.
You were hoping for a. Like,
I
something?
wasn't. I mean,
Is that just something in
maybe.
the back of your head you've been thinking for
yeah.
like every direct?
It's like that could be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One thing I was hoping for was maybe some new NSO announcements, maybe a big NSO announcement. We didn't get that.
Mm-hmm.
I was really hoping. I mean, they did announce the Amiibo. I really thought we were going to see some Tears DLC announcements, or
Yeah.
at least a date.
I'm kind of glad they didn't because I think everybody's still occupied with trying to like
True.
explore.
I
all
bet
the
they're
way
going to give them some
around.
time.
And we did see Dark Moon though.
We did see Dark Moon. I actually haven't played Dark Moon. I've only played
I
3.
played. This is Luigi's Mansion, by the way.
Yes, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon.
So I played the second one, Dark Moon, on my 3DS back when I was like, I don't know, 9. And I enjoyed the third one. I played all the way through that one. I didn't finish the second one. I wish the first one was coming to the Switch.
Yes, I wish along with Dark Moon that 3DS port also made it to the Switch.
Because they did like right before the end of the cycle, like life cycle of 3DS.
Yeah, it was like one of the
They
last
ported
big releases for
Luigi's
3DS.
Mansion, the first one.
They gave them Luigi's Mansion, and Switch owners were like, "But wait." But no. Yeah, I mean, Luigi's Mansion 3 was a fantastic game. It's a weird game because it's, the idea is that it's not a platformer. But
I enjoy it.
It's fun. No, it's a really fun
The
series.
company that makes it, Nintendo, bought them like a year
It's
and a
Next
half
Level
ago.
Games.
Yeah.
Which keeps making me hope
They did
for a new,
Strikers, right?
Punch Out. Yeah, they did Strikers. But
And
that keeps
Punch-Out.
making hope for the Punch Out sequel. We haven't seen it yet, unfortunately. But no, the
Punch-Out would be
Luigi's... Yeah. The one other thing I was hoping for, the other big thing, was a Pizza Tower port. For the
I'm surprised
Switch.
they haven't done that. It would be a perfect game on the
It'd
Switch.
be a great game for the Switch, considering its connection to Wario
Speaking
Land.
of ports, we saw Arkham
The
Trilogy on
Arkham
Switch.
Trilogy came, which was a
Now,
surprise to me.
okay, so I love this trilogy. I'm not going to buy it because I've
Same.
played them
Yeah.
all three, right? However, they're 10 years old now. Do we really need it on Switch? Like,
mean,
you can get it
You
everywhere.
get it everywhere, but I mean, there are a lot of people out there that just own Switches, and there's there's a lot of people out there that only own PC, who only own Xbox, but there is this. I mean, game preservation is something that's talked about a lot, and make sure that everyone, as many people can play, the games from now to infinity, so to keep that those games alive, I think are important. It's the question of, can they run.
Yeah, on the Switch.
When
the
City
Switch...
City and Asylum, I think they're going to be
City
fine.
maybe a little... I mean, you're in the open city, so I think
Yeah.
it should be fine. But Night
It's
is
Night that I think
very
is gonna be-
graphically
Because
demanding.
Night still looks great today.
Yeah,
like it's still
it
an
looks better
amazing
than
looking-
Gotham Knights, which just came out last year. Which
Yeah,
that was
the Arkham
really sad
games
game.
are fantastic. I mean, they have some of the best Batman Joker performances of all time. I mean, some great open world. Actually, Night is my favorite. Another sidebar. We had a lot of sidebars.
I
but
enjoy Night.
Night. People give Night a bad rap. I think Night
It's
is
my
actually
favorite as well.
better than City. I think
I
the
think it is.
Batmobile segments are actually pretty fun. It's not the classic City, but you don't have to use it in the open world. Which
People didn't like... I think the main complaint was they didn't like Arkham Knight. Like the Knight
the character. But yeah, there was actually
There was some disappointment.
There was some disappointment. But in my mind, it's the story is only a little worse than City's, because City has one of the best twists, bait and switches ever in a game. Everything. But Night has but I think the gameplay is much smoother than City and Asylum. It has a really great new segment that kept it fresh. Great open world, some really fun quest. So
I thought, so this is not spoiling. In the beginning of Arkham Knight, you're introduced to the villain, which is Scarecrow, and I thought he was such a good...
Oh, yeah.
Because he was in,
he's in
Asylum and City.
He's not in City.
He's not in City.
So that was the big deal, because, we're not going to talk about it. That's more story spoilers. But yeah, Scarecrow is a great job. And I will say, and this is also, that's one other thing, there was a problem, there was something I was worried that was going to be inherently wrong with Night due to things that happened in Asylum and City that they figured out, that they remedy perfectly in Night, story-wise, which I was so happy how they did it.
It's just a good story.
It's just a good story. They're both, City and Night are really good, is a really good overall story.
Yeah, speaking of superheroes,
Yeah,
this
this is
awesome
good.
segue
That's
to
an awesome segue, Jackson. Actually, I didn't even think of that.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
We're going to
came
talk
out.
about Spider-Verse for a little bit, because who isn't talking about Spider-Verse?
It's so good.
It's so good,
I
guys.
think it's way better than the first one.
It's way better. Warning, we're going to do some spoilers for this. I think we want to talk. I feel like we want to talk about this.
Okay, yeah. So if you've gotten this far, spoiler warning
Spoiler
for Spider-Man
warning,
Across the
we are going to be
Spider-Verse.
discussing spoilers for Spider-Verse. We probably should have decided that before. First episode, give us some grace here.
I'll leave a timestamp on the screen, or if you're listening to audio, I will edit in a audio segment telling you what timestamp to go to avoid these spoilers. Hey, this is Editing Jackson here. If you want to avoid spoilers, go to 4118.
Yeah, but no, it was an amazing... to me, it was the story they wanted to tell that they've been wanting to tell.
Definitely.
It was like, okay, the first one was the setup, and the second one is really going to be... it was just more of what Spider-Man
There was a lot more character development and a lot more to the story. I just thought it was all around better. I always thought the first one was overhyped. It was good, but I always thought people thought it was way better than it actually was. Yeah, I really enjoyed Kingpin though. He was a really
He's
cool
a great. I mean,
villain.
The first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, is going to go down as one of the most important films, I think, in cinema for what it did to animation. I mean,
Look at Puss in Boots.
Look at Puss in Boots that came
Teenage
out. I
Mutant-
mean, Bad Guys, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these studios that are now seeing like, hey, it doesn't have to be this like, let's make it a realistic, the Pixar Disney animation where it's going to be cartoony but kind of realistic, and you know.
One quick sidebar: did you hear about Toy Story 5? That got confirmed with Woody and Buzz Lightyear.
I'm scared.
Now, this is probably
sidebar.
because Elementals failed. They
Well, they announced it before Elementals.
Did they?
They did, yeah. I don't
Okay.
think that has it. But here's my
So,
thing about
that's-
Toy Story 4 was not needed. 3 had a great conclusion.
I thought
However,
4 was good.
I thought 4 was good, and
It wasn't needed.
Had a better, like, they did a good job of, like, we're still going to do a conclusion that's not as good as 3's conclusion.
3
but
ended really well.
3 ended really well, and, you know, look, it's money. It's a money thing,
It's-
but... And I think Pixar is realizing, you know, they're struggling to come up with some ideas that really live up to par with their original, you know, the creativity of the original ones. But, I mean...
Okay, so do you think it's kind of weird that that Pixar's still using Up for a lot of their shorts?
I did
now?
find. I mean, they did just do that
Like,
short.
And then they also had that TV series on Disney
Yeah,
Plus.
I mean, look,
It's a good
Have
IP.
they have their franchises, they have their IPs, and they try to utilize them the
Mm-hmm.
best they can. Sometimes that doesn't go well. Lightyear. I never watched Lightyear.
I didn't either. I don't want to.
That was the main thing is Pixar, and I think I want to see Elemental because Elemental. I heard it
cool.
wasn't. It was because but it looks like a step in the right direction to get
Yeah.
Pixar back where they were.
Yeah.
Because with like Turning Red and Lightyear, and look at it, it was so much about like, it was just about people.
Yeah.
And like, and some of their shows about people, like The Incredibles, is just about people.
Incredibles great.
And it's great. It's my favorite Pixar film. But I think what makes Pixar so interesting is was the imagination and like, oh, it's talking toys, it's monsters, it's you know, leaving talking cars. So Pixar needs to get back into it.
Now,
Meanwhile,
back to
Spider-Verse,
Spider-Man, yeah.
who is just crushing it because that movie was
was so
amazing.
good.
I mean, you've already seen it. I mean, the big twist at the end and the setup for
Him and his in the
in the other universe and the whole thing of him, the number 42 Spider-Man actually being a different, you know, he's not supposed to be Spider-Man, which is a really interesting concept. I mean, it was a fantastic movie.
Now, I don't know if you knew this, but when it first got announced, there was a part 1
Yes.
at the end of it. Then they took it off. I think it misled a lot of people
Yes.
because they didn't realize they're going to watch 2.5-hour movie of a part 1.
We got to the end. I was in theaters with my friend, and we got to the end of the movie, and you know, it had the cliffhanger ending, and he was like, "Wait, what? It's a 2." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a 2-part film." And he went, "Oh, screw off." And I'm like, "Okay."
I get the reason they took it off. I mean, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, that's a really long name. But I still think they should have clarified somehow. However, and also we should talk about the Part 2 because you said that's...
Yes, there were some, and if you don't know, there were some anonymous, I believe, people who worked on the film who said it was a very tough film to work on.
Very
They worked,
demanding.
you know, very demanding. And they've also said that the release window for next year is an impossible release window for the movie, which will be interesting. I mean, it depends on if they've been working on it in tandem, you know, at the same time.
They said they confirmed it for March at the end
I mean,
of
they
the
confirmed
year.
it for March. That could easily
Part
get
1.
moved. I mean, that's a long way away. I mean, I could see them. I mean, it's believable to say that movie's going to be impossible to finish. I mean, that movie has. I mean, those films have so much stuff going on with the animation styles and the characters.
It's going to at
and
least
all
have to be like 2 hours. Like,
I mean, because
that's a
the
lot
first
of
one
work.
was what, 2 hours?
The first one I think was hour
Or
and
no,
a
sorry,
half.
the second one. The second one was.
The second, okay. Yeah, it was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I mean, one of the longest animated movies I think ever made. But I
Yeah.
mean, I did not mind. I mean,
It
that's
was
one of those
great.
things
I
where
thought
you
it was
need
great.
more. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing, and I really think they have a lot to go with here. Mm-hmm. And all the different Easter eggs and all the little different things.
That was so cool. It was just a beautiful movie.
It was just a beautiful movie to look at, and also had some really funny writing.
Yeah.
But I will say the Spot really impressed me as a really good villain.
Yeah.
And
Because I feel like we haven't seen a clumsy villain in a very long time.
but it was this interesting thing of this clumsy villain that ends up getting like
Really
really
powerful.
powerful and really dark. And I was really surprised. Jason Schwartzman who voices the Spot
Oh.
is an amazing actor. I mean, he's done so much stuff, with Wes Anderson, Scott Pilgrim. I mean, he does so much good things, but you rarely see him. As I think the only other villain role he's taken that I've seen is in Scott Pilgrim. But I mean, to see him do such this dark villain when he's usually this more like goofy, kind of comedic actor, which the Spot is a goofy comedic character. But no, he did a great job, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. Them fighting the Spot in the second one.
Yeah.
But
That'd be interesting. Especially, I don't know.
But
It's
all the
gonna be
little
crazy.
Spider-Man jokes and all the little references. I mean, I think my favorite joke
was
was,
so funny.
the Ben Reilly Spider-Man the whole time. Just being all dramatic. That was the Scarlet
Oh,
Spider.
yeah.
And him
Oh,
just being
that was-
dramatic.
that's really
the whole
good.
time just totally making fun of that era of
I
Spider-Man.
use the Scarlet Spider suit in Marvel's Spider-Man, like the PS5.
I love it. It's awesome.
I
I love that
love
character.
it. So-
It's such a, but it was, I mean, Andy Samberg really took that character and it was just like, yeah, he's just totally over the top, dramatic, and just totally, but I mean, it was great. And
John Mulaney had one line, I think.
they'd used an old line.
It was
from
an
the
old
first one.
line.
But
I
am
was thinking so.
That's the thing.
He's gonna be in the second one,
He was
though,
gonna be
or the
Nick Cage.
sequel.
I think the third one hopefully is the best because it has everything from the second one
And
plus
the
the things
first.
they cut from the first one back into it. I mean, I love John Mulaney, and so to see Nick Cage and John Mulaney not be part of the second one was a little sad.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they are hopefully bringing them back for the third one. They haven't confirmed that yet. But I did like. I mean,
But he's like, he was lined up at the end of the movie, right?
yeah, he was in
Yeah.
that big finish where they were all standing together. But no, I mean it was a fantastic movie, and it's. I mean those movies are gonna go down as. super
Speaking
important.
of fantastic movies, do you want to talk about Oppenheimer?
I'm so excited for Oppenheimer.
It hasn't come out yet. If
It
you
hasn't
listen
come
to
out
the
yet,
future,
but it is Nolan's big new movie. I never saw Tenet.
really,
I never saw Tenet, so I don't know. So it's interesting to me. I mean, this is his first, documentary style based on a true story film.
well, Dunkirk.
Oh,
I mean,
and I forgot he did Dunkirk. Yes,
he has an obsession with World War II. We're finding.
Yeah, I mean, he
Christopher
likes.
Nolan.
I think he has said on record that he thinks Oppenheimer is the most important person in history.
Yeah,
Which is a very bold statement. But I mean, it looks amazing. I mean, it looks
Looks
so
really
intense
Really
for such a like he does. It looks like he's doing such a good job of having this science experiment.
I do want to talk about how Hans Zimmer's not doing the music again. Like, do you know if there's been news about how Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, like, did they stop working together or
I don't know.
something?
I mean, I think maybe
He
he does other stuff now.
Yeah, maybe.
I will say one thing I am excited for Oppenheimer is to see Cillian Murphy finally get a main role. I mean, he's done so much for Nolan as secondary characters, and I think he's a great actor. So to see him finally go and do another, finally really show off and do such a big role, I'm really excited for him. But no, Oppenheimer looks great. And we mentioned it before, but I am so excited for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. I mean, they're some of my favorite characters in, pop culture and comics and TV show. And I mean, that movie looks like it's totally going to redo.
I'm not
totally
a
change.
huge fan of
Yeah.
the franchise, but this movie, I mean, I'll
Looks
watch
good.
it. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look terrible.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
It just,
I think it looks
it's
amazing.
got the Spider-Man
it's got this. I mean, it's
animation
it's
again.
if they did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie in the style of Spider-Verse. So it
Which
looks
it looks good.
It looks good.
And they actually got kids to voice.
And they got kids to
Right,
voice them.
yeah.
I mean, they're doing a really good job, and that's interesting. That's the big thing people have been talking about was
they're actually kids
it's actual kids because the usually the portrayal of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are like 16 to 18. Like that's kind of the age group, and they're doing more of like almost like a 12 to
like
14,
14, yeah.
which is it's a younger group, but I kind of like that
Yeah.
in a way. But
Interesting.
now, there's some great movies, summer movies. The summer movies coming out this year are going to be really good.
What do you think of Indiana Jones 5?
I mean,
I don't think there should have been a 4, but I mean, we're here now.
I'm actually this is my controversial opinion of the episode. I don't mind 4. and I don't know why people hate on the ending.
It was
Are you-
okay. So 4, in my opinion, it's okay. I think people hate on it more than it deserves, right? I think the story was. I mean, it was okay. Obviously, it's not comparable to 1 through 3. 1 through 3 is
Yeah,
just
I mean, look, it's
really
not better
good.
than 1, 2, 3. I think it works as a movie.
It's
and to
fine.
do an older, but I think when people get so mad at that ending, I'm like, look, the first movie had guys' heads being blown off, and you're
true.
mad about flying saucers.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, to me, it was just like it's Spielberg, you know, he's gonna do what he does, and I actually liked it. It was an interesting twist. I thought it was a really cool twist, and I'm sorry if you think it's dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think? I mean, I don't know.
I think it's fine.
it's
I
fine.
enjoyed it when I watched it. Yeah, it's fine. Like, okay, so this is actually a good example. I had a cousin who had never seen Indiana Jones, and he's like
All of them?
five. He hasn't seen any of them.
Okay.
He's like 5 years older than me, so he actually like he's a college graduate, and he saw the fourth one first.
Oh.
He enjoyed it. He thought it was good.
Yeah.
So, like, if you take away it comparing, I mean, obviously it is going to be compared to the first 3,
Yes.
but if you take that away, it's a good movie. It's fine. The fifth one, I feel like he's too old.
He's too old.
He's too old now.
But I mean, I mean, them doing the young Indiana Jones CGI is going to be very interesting.
I think it looks fine. Is there
It
controversy?
looks good. I know. I mean, people have been saying it looks really impressive. Harrison
Yeah.
Ford has been saying like, "Hey, it looks really good. I believe in it. It's going to work."
And then this is also John Williams' last movie.
That's something to think
I
about.
mean, he's 95. It makes sense.
I mean, talk about a true legend of the film industry. I mean,
He's a
I don't-
composer,
I
for
don't think
those who
we
don't
even-
know.
For those of you who somehow don't know.
Yeah.
Somehow don't know. But I mean, I don't think there's even a need to talk about him. And I will say, you know, a lot of people, you know, do sometimes give him a hard time of like, oh, all his music sounds the same. And I'll give you that. It's really good music.
I think Indiana Jones is his best soundtrack.
I still
my
think it's the Star Wars films. I
Yeah.
mean, he had to. George went up to him and said, "Can you invent space jazz?" And he did it. I mean, that's what's insane to me.
true.
I mean, he's a legend. I mean, he's been making and conducting and composing music for so long.
I don't think movie music would have been the same without him.
Oh no, he totally
Like, he
changed.
completely changed everything.
And because he was the first, you know, like, I mean, he was there. I mean, he was the first blockbuster film composer. You know, he was the first guy to really make, you know, big film scores for these big movies that made a ton of, you know, Star Wars was the first big blockbuster film.
Yeah.
You know, John Williams was there at the beginning. So it's really sad to see him go.
But it makes sense. I mean,
But I mean, the guy needs to retire. The fact that
he's
been
20
working-
years past than when he could have retired.
Yeah, he could have retired 10 years ago or 20 years ago, like he said,
Yeah.
you said, and would have gone down as a legend. But
Yeah.
well, I can't think of anything else to talk about, Jackson. Can you think of anything else?
I don't think
So
so.
I think we're gonna call it for today's episode. Thank you so much. If you really like this, we really ask that you subscribe and be on the lookout for
Yeah.
future videos. If you also want to check out our shorts quick about it, be sure to check those out. Thank you, and y'all have a wonderful day.
And remember, this is where you heard about it. We don't have to include that.